I'm Matt Byram, and this is the Marketing Strategies Podcast, where I speak with interesting and well-respected marketers from high-growth companies. We'll discuss the strategies they've used to generate traffic, acquire new users, and grow their business.
I know on day 30 if you are going to renew or churn on day 365.
It's a little bit of mind control.
You need to reach the leads in a specific time frame. The faster, the better.
When something works, don't do more like it, do more with it.
If you're selling to a very finite audience, an inbound model is going to be grossly inefficient.
This audience has what top questions, and then make sure that you have an answer to each of their questions.
We don't hire professional writers to write for the blog. We hire sales operations practitioners.
Whoever gets closest to the customer wins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Marketing Strategies Podcast. Today, I'm talking with Joe Lazauskas, Contently's Editor-in-Chief and Head of Content Strategy. He's also co-author of a new book called The Storytelling Edge and is a regular speaker at prominent marketing events. So, hey Joe, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to have you part of this podcast, the inaugural podcast, as it was.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. When I was a kid, I was like 4 years old. I was eating at a Bennigan's with my mom. It's like kind of a chain barbecue type joint in New Jersey. And I looked up at her one day and I just said, "Mom, one day I'm going to be on the Marketing Influencer and Strategy podcast." And she was shocked at how precocious I was, and here I am today. Mom, we're living out that dream. It's a big day. Let's get to it.
Exactly. This is what it's all been leading to. A lot of people know Contently and who you are and what you do, but it'd be great if you could start us off by giving a rundown of what you do and how you work, what problems you solve for your customers in your own business.
Yeah, so I'm our head of content strategy. So basically, my job is to help our customers figure out what content they should be creating. What are the stories that are going to help them break through the noise and actually build meaningful relationships with the customers they care about? And how can they best deliver those stories to their audience in the places where they live and at the appropriate time in their customer journey? I started out here at Contently as our editor-in-chief, running our in-house editorial team, building our own audience from a few thousand people to several hundred thousand, launching our award-winning print magazine. And then about a year and a half ago, I was complaining enough about how we approached content strategy on the client side that they said, "All right, you take it over, see if you can figure it out." And I think we have. We take a very data-driven approach to content strategy at Contently. So what I really love to do is use data to find the most opportune creative boxes for our customers to play in, and use that to spark some really great story ideas and content series and everything else that might help our customers build those relationships that matter to them.
That's really interesting. You talk about data there. What sort of data do you source and understand for your customers to help them understand what type of content to create?
Yeah, so the cool thing about working at a company like Contently is that we're not an agency, we're a technology company. So that gives a couple key advantages. One is that within our platform, we have a lot of proprietary tools that our customers use, one, to orchestrate their entire content marketing program. So, a company like Chase will have hundreds of users on Contently and everything runs through there. So we get a lot of analytics from across our customer base, both on the efficiency and structure of how they're creating content and also how their content is performing. We have our whole analytics suite that our clients use. So that gives us a lot of first-party data that we're able to leverage in seeing what's most effective. And then we use a slew of third-party search and social analytic tools that we use in concert to identify different topic-based and audience-based white spaces that different brands can play in. So how I think about it is basically what your audience is really interested in, the content formats they're most likely to consume, and the topics they read and share about the most. is one general box that you can play in. And then within that, you can look at all of your different competitors and where do they have the highest share of voice within different subtopics and across different formats. And if you basically lay that out on a grid, you find all these smaller creative boxes that you can play in. Say, short form animated videos about blockchain is something that in general, our audience is really interested in and tends to share a lot, but none of our competitors are doing it. So maybe that's something that we can play off of. We can think of how can we do that in our own unique way, in our own unique voice. That's a kind of simplistic example, but we try and apply that kind of science to our creativity across all of our customers. And that's a lot of what the book I wrote with Shane Snow, our co-founder, is about, is combining that art and science of storytelling, the art and science of content strategy to actually create content that isn't mediocre, copycat, Me Too content, which in my opinion is the biggest thing plaguing content marketing right now. A lot of people are creating content. Very few people are creating really good content. We believe very much in using a data-driven approach and the timeless art of storytelling to create the kind of stories that are going to break through.
That's awesome. And I guess you mentioned storytelling there. That's a big part of what Contently is about. I know Contently started around the time where content marketing was becoming particularly popular and there was a bit of a buzzword at the time. Do you think you guys have grown and have achieved the growth that you have because you've focused more on storytelling as opposed to content as a general topic? So
I really attribute all of our growth in a lot of ways to storytelling. So I'll give my personal background with Contently. I was running a news site called The Faster Times and covering tech a lot in New York around 2011 when I was covering Techstars, the tech incubator here in New York. And I saw Contently present, saw Contently written about. And the first thing I noticed was Contently's story. It was the story of this Columbia J School grad, Shane Snow, who had graduated into the recession, who had seen all these really talented journalists around them struggling to get work, struggling to be able to set up any sort of website or connections to get freelance work. His best friend from growing up in Idaho, Joe Coleman, who'd been a serial entrepreneur, had a successful startup out in Vegas, who was struggling to find writers to write for his brand's blog. It was a huge pain in the ass effort. And a technologist, Dave Goldberg, who had quit law school but really wanted to build something cool. And they came together and they said, hey, what if we created a platform that would connect freelance creatives with brands who, in this new age of social media and new age where the wall between them and consumers had been broken down, they needed writers to actually create the type of stories that would get people's attention. And that was the genesis of Contently. As a journalist, I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. And then, I had shifted away more from the editorial side to the business side of my site and launching our branded content studio. So I came to Contently and I said, hey, if you guys need any help with this, would love to get involved, started doing some freelance work for them, and eventually came on as editor-in-chief. And my mandate there when we were, less than 10 people was build as big of an audience as possible, like tell great stories every day. I was writing 2-3 stories a day, making videos, everything I could to educate the market on what content marketing was, how we thought about it, where we thought this industry was going. And that was honestly the biggest growth driver for us, is that people knew about Contently and thought of Contently as this bigger thing because we had such a big audience, because we told such good stories and were seen as leaders in the industry. And that's helped propel a lot of our growth from, a brand perspective, from a lead gen perspective over the years. We very much dog food it, right? We believe in the power of storytelling, and it's how we've grown our own organization.
Yeah, and did you feel like at the time that it was your role almost, it was your position at the time and the time of starting that you actually had to educate and help pass knowledge on to the market about what content marketing was, and not just that, but about how to tell stories and how to do content marketing really, really well?
Yeah, so think back to 2012, 2013, content marketing was emerging as a buzzword, but if you look at that classic chart of search traffic for the term content marketing that is in most every content marketing presentation, it really only starts to spike around 2012. So there's still a lot to educate in the market, and people knew what it was, but not how to do it well. So we wanted to highlight brands who are doing it really well as much as possible. We wanted to really share our own journey, what was working for us. If we found a new strategy, be it paid Facebook distribution to drive email signups, be a certain webinar or email tactic, we wanted to write about that and share it. We wanted to talk to as many of the smartest people as possible. And above all, we wanted to be fully focused on our audience. Like I had no, you need to plug the product. You need to plug software in this post mandate when starting the content strategist. It was, hey, let's educate the market, cover this like you would any journalistic outlet, try and give the readers exactly what they want, listen to your reader feedback, and really track and analyze from a data perspective what stories they're enjoying the most, and optimize off of that. So
did you guys have the software at that time, or were you really just putting content out into the market?
Yeah, no, we had the software at the time. That's what Contently's business model was. Certainly the platform's gotten a lot more robust over the years to now it's basically a giant brand orchestration platform in a lot of ways with content at the core. But we use the platform to run our own content program. That's where I lived, was in our software, because there's things like your really in-depth analytics, an editorial calendar, pitch tools. I worked with our freelance network. The platform was pretty integral to that. And that's ultimately what we were selling. But really the dream, the reason people came to Contently is because they knew that they needed to create better content. They wanted to build a content program, and they saw us as the experts who could help them get there.
Okay. And if we fast forward to today then, so who are Contently's customers? Are you focused on the enterprise market? You typically bigger businesses?
Yeah, we're absolutely focused on the enterprise market, although, fast growth, mid-market as well. The reason is that what our platform is meant to solve is the challenges that larger organizations have around content. They need a platform that can give everyone access and visibility into content. They need workflows that can go through all of the approval steps that might involve brand managers and content marketing managers and legal and compliance. If you're trying to run an enterprise content marketing operation off of email and spreadsheets, you're going to waste a lot of time. It gets really confusing. It's very hard to get out of your own way. So that's the market that we're focusing on. And we're in London, San Francisco, St. Paul, and growing pretty quickly. And, someone who's been there from the beginning, it's been fun to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you're working with customers on a bigger scale, bigger business, cross borders internationally, how does your revenue model work? Is it a recurring revenue, or is one-off piece of content, or a mixture of both?
Yeah, so we're a SaaS company, so it's recurring revenue.
Yeah.
The other model is that we take a 15% cut from every transaction that goes through our network. So we have over 100,000 freelance creatives throughout the globe. We use AI to match freelancers with the brands who are our clients. And then our clients create tons of content through our platform. And for every transaction, we very transparently take a 15% cut. We also have managed services. Most all of our clients, over 90%, use a Contently managing editor, who is basically the day-to-day editorial juggler of their content marketing operation, ensures that all the content they get from freelancers is on point and on strategy, and also takes a very data-driven approach to helping our clients optimize their program. My team does a lot of larger scale upfront content strategy work for our clients. We also do paid distribution services. So it's a mixture of services, content, and SaaS. Obviously, as a tech company, SaaS is our bread and butter. But we want to do everything we can to make our clients successful.
And their success is your success, really, at the end of the day, so you're aligned with them?
Yep. You got it. That's probably I should have said that, right? That was a good line.
Yeah. So tell me about Contently's growth as a business. What's your growth story? I know you said at the start it was you were putting a lot of content out into the market, educating the market. When did it really come together that you sort of engineered a growth strategy for Contently, and when is it that you had your first sort of real wins through marketing?
I would say that 2014 is the year things took off. So we raised our Series A in December 2013, maybe January 2014. And so that gave us a little bit of infusion of about $9 million in capital. We grew really quickly that year. It's the year that I'd say content marketing super took off in the market, which helped. We saw just our audience grow a ton that year. I took over at the tail end of 2013, running our blog full time and coming on as editor-in-chief. I've been sort of doing some freelance work before that. We saw our own audience grow from about 8,000 folks to almost 200,000. Our email list skyrocket. In turn, our leads grow, 6 or 7x very, very quickly. A lot of inbound interest. A lot of our lead gen programs were working quite well. Webinars, ebooks, tried and true methods, but they were working for us. And we saw a huge spike in revenue that year. That's been pretty consistent over the last few years. We've been consistent on the Inc. list and the Cranes list and Deloitte's Fast 500 list and all those fancy lists you want to get in as a startup. But it was that point where we could really invest in, day-to-day great content that we were able to grow, which was a good story for us because that's what we're selling, right? Is this dream that that great content can be a huge growth driver for your business.
Yeah. What did you guys struggle with as you grew? How did you find the channels that really worked for you as a business? Because I know content is like the core for you guys. That's the bread and butter. That's what you guys are really good at. But obviously you've got to promote that content and you've got to get it in front of your audience. You've got to make sure that content resonates. So how did you really find your channels? Really is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that audience growth wasn't an issue for us, which I've probably hammered away so far, but targeting was. So figuring out, especially as a small company, how to increase the quality of the leads that we were getting.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have a giant SDR team. SDR teams are expensive to qualify leads. So if an ebook is bringing in, 10,000 leads, but you don't have a great qualification process there, you can be really inefficient in the time that you're reaching out to the people that really matter. So that was a big learning for us is we have to get better at lead scoring. We have to get a little bit more targeted in our content. I think over the years, we've intentionally sacrificed audience size for audience quality by becoming more targeted on the enterprise marketer than really trying to educate and appeal to as many people as possible within the marketing industry. That was a learning for us because we saw a lack of efficiency in our marketing program as the kind of the side effect of some of the success we were having and just generating a ton of interest. And then I think also thinking about how to create content that would help our customers as much as possible. So that's more of that bottom funnel content that we weren't as locked in on as first, but giving, say, our champions within organizations who are trying to buy Contently, the case studies, the compelling story-driven sales decks that would help them sell Contently to their boss or their colleagues. That's, at least to me at first coming from a journalism background felt like the less fun stuff to work on. But over the years, I've actually found that the challenge of telling a really good story in those mid and bottom funnel assets is interesting to me. And it can be a lot of fun. A lot of times we think of those sort of things as, they're dry, they're boring, they're supposed to feel academic. I really like, and it's something we talk about in the book a lot, is how to tell really compelling stories about your product, about your brand, that doesn't just make it something that in every presentation and sales emails people glaze over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a stat here from the book that says that 78% of chief marketing officers at big companies think content is the future of their job, and 2/3 of brand marketers think that content is better than most type of advertising. Obviously, this has helped the growth of Contently. One of the things I was also then going to ask is around so I'd like to dissect a little bit you say about an ebook, you get 10,000 leads, for example. How would you as a business promote that ebook to generate those 10,000 leads? And then what does your funnel look like following those 10,000 leads downloading? How would you actually go ahead and lead score or dissect the ones to focus on, the ones to contact, the ones to nurture further? I guess that's a big question, but if you could maybe dissect a little bit about how that would work for Contently and how you do it as best practice, that would be awesome to hear.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in developing an own audience as much as possible. I think what we saw this past week with how Facebook shifted their algorithm in a way that's going to screw over both publishers and brands and really any page to decrease their reach, it's very dangerous to build an audience on someone else's land. So everything that I do from an audience perspective, I'm trying to drive return relationships. So drive email signups in particular, so that we have a direct line to those customers.
Yeah.
So for us, we have hundreds of thousands of subscribers to our newsletter. It's super popular in our industry. That's a huge avenue for promoting any piece of lead generation content we have, because through a simple top of funnel article, we're just going to ask for someone, enter your email address, sign up for the best newsletter in content marketing. When we then promote an ebook to them, we are asking for more information that's going to help us qualify that prospect. So what company size are you in? What's your title and position? What industry are you in? Questions of that nature, which allow us to say, okay, this is someone who's a VP of marketing at a Fortune 500 company. We are probably going to want to reach out to them. And so those are the lead qualification criteria that we use. In terms of further promoting those books, we found that Facebook advertising, LinkedIn advertising has been really effective for us in the past, just because the depth of targeting that you have there. Co-promotion with really like-minded brands, say like HubSpot, we've done a bunch with, can be really effective if we're co-promoting with their enterprise list. They're co-promoting with our list of enterprise clients. We're very complementary companies. That works really well.
And would you actually go ahead and start a content piece from scratch with them, knock around a few ideas, see what works between yourselves, and actually co-create a piece of content? Or would one of you go to each other and say, we've got this piece of content, would you like to promote it and do the promotion together? How would you normally go ahead about that?
Yeah, we create something original that's going to resonate with both our audiences. Generally, the easiest way to do it is, okay, here are the two things we want to talk. Here's the overall subject we want to talk about. Here's an angle we can talk about it from. Here's an angle you can talk about it from. Usually we want to tie in some degree of original research that we've done as a company. So there's a value add to it. When possible, bring in a thought leader or a client, someone who's absolutely killing it. One of the most popular webinars we did is with Tomas Kellner of GE Reports, because everyone loves what GE does. GE Reports is this awesome blog that reports on the work going inside GE, goes viral on Reddit regularly. So bringing in Tomas, that's something that really appeals to your audience. So we'd figure out what is really the best story that we can tell overall, the best way to break it down between the two of us, and then create it from scratch.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes sense. And then you've got a piece that actually resonates with both audiences in the best possible way. Just to step back a point, you mentioned about promoting on Facebook. Would you guys actually promote the ebook or the piece of content direct, or do you feed somebody in through an article or like a feeder piece, an easier piece to get through before actually reaching the higher value piece of the ebook, or you just go straight in direct?
So yeah, it's a great question. We use Facebook more for driving people onto our email list. That was a decent growth strategy for us. One of the things I realized, especially around 2014, is I didn't have a big budget, but if I diverted a little bit of it each month to promoting our top of funnel stories that could get a really low CPC on Facebook, like a cent or 2 cents or 5 cents, but also had a very high conversion rate to our email list. So we just would use SumoMe as an easy email pop-up and A/B test a bunch of different CTAs. That was a really good owned audience strategy. And we saw that people who then got onto our newsletter were very likely to become Contently customers, even if it took a year, 2 years, 3 years. Keep feeding people valuable content. When they're in a position where they need an enterprise solution like Contently, they'll come calling, and that's something that we've always had faith in, has worked out for us. So we found, it was more effective for promoting top of funnel articles and driving them in. There are some ebooks that did work really well because they had compelling headline. We used a lot of original art, either original photography or illustration. But generally, ebooks were best either with partnerships or with a direct promotion to people we've already nurtured with our newsletter.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, are you guys measuring the cost of lead or cost of new sign-up acquisition really across these different channels?
Yeah, we are. And another interesting content approach that might be worth talking about is the fact that we have a print magazine. It's something we've done the last 5 years, and from a cost per lead or cost per acquisition model, it has been really effective for us for direct mail. So we have this big 160-page glossy that we slave over, but is super fun to create, that our prospects send one-on-one to a VIP list of prospects and clients with a personalized note from either the account manager or the salesperson. It's gotten us, in front of everyone, from VPs at large finance companies to, even Evan Spiegel picked it up one time. Really? And then wanted a meeting with us. Yeah, that was one of the
That's awesome.
Cooler moments.
And what's your strategy there? You'll actually send a print magazine that's personalized with. Do you want to run us through that?
Yeah, so we use basically a direct mail service. They basically ship out from that center, personalized note from the salesperson, plus a magazine, and it goes to prospects, clients. There's something about a physical asset that stands out to people, especially when it's really well crafted. It's part of the reason as a company we're excited about the book coming out, because that's another really good piece of print collateral. But when you send that to someone, it's something they can hold in their hands. It's a physical embodiment of the quality of your brand, the quality of your storytelling, proof that you believe in what you're selling. It just works really well. We constantly see people taking pictures of their quarterlies, tweeting it at us, emailing our sales rep and saying this is awesome. And that sparks that conversation where they're like, okay, yeah, let's talk. Let's see a demo. I'd love to pick up the conversation we had 3 months ago about what Contently can do for us. It's just a good strategy.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, as you say, anything physical and personal in these days of the age of the internet is like gold dust, really. I mean, is that the one of the reasons for writing the book, to have another way to prove your level of knowledge and understanding in the market, and actually get get another physical product into the hands of potential customers?
Yeah, I'd say there was a couple reasons for writing the book. The first was that we didn't really feel necessarily the world needed another book about storytelling, but the thing we noticed in the market was that there was just so many brands who are still creating mediocre content. There's a stat that by Beckon study last year that 5% of all branded content, the top 5% of branded content gets 90% of all engagement with branded content. So basically means there's a few brands doing content marketing really well who are gaining a distinct advantage over the field, but a lot of people who are still struggling at it, even as marketers create more and more content. And we wanted to write a book that would be really easy to read, very educational. It's just a fun, story-driven book about the art of great storytelling. So many marketers didn't go to a liberal arts school and just study writing and storytelling for years like we did. And so we wanted to help teach people that in a book and then also show them how to apply it to their business. Definitely the benefit it would have for our brand was a big motivator there. We actually planned to self-publish the book at first. We're like, let's write this up. We've done so much research, so many interviews over the last few years. We really should put a book together about this. We were going to self-publish it first and just have it be another piece of collateral, like the quarterly for our sales and accounts team. And then Wiley reached out and we're like, hey, we love your guys' stuff. Have you ever thought about writing a book that would kind of be like Salesforce's book for content marketing and Beyond the Cloud, I think is what it's called. And we were like, yeah, actually, we already wrote that book. And so it just came together this past summer.
That's awesome. And the book's called The Storytelling Edge.
Yeah, The Storytelling Edge, how to transform your business, stop screaming into the void and make people love you. Shameless plug, which is ironic given how much I've talked about not plugging your stuff in this podcast. But if you go to thestorytellingedge.com, we have a ton of cool freebies. If you pre-order one book or more books, accelerates to everything like getting an in-person workshop with Shane and myself. So go and check that out if you're interested or just want to learn more about the book. We also have a free storytelling course that you can find there on how to basically become a better storyteller. So if you're not ready to buy the book but want to learn some stuff, we have some freebies too.
Yeah, the site's cool. I've had a look over the site, and you guys are doing a bit of a Kickstarter type thing in terms of you can buy different packages and bundles, and there's extras that you get with each different level that you buy as well, which is really interesting, cool way to do it.
Yeah, we're just trying to juice those pre-orders so we can get on some sort of bestseller list. We got to be an Amazon number one new release in some obscure business category. So now we can put that on all the ads. That's a growth strategy right there.
That's a growth strategy.
But if we get on maybe, I don't know if we'll get on the Times list, but if we get on maybe the Journal's list, that would be a big win for me, especially as someone who went to a small liberal arts school and spent all my days rolling around on the lawn, like writing in moleskin notebooks and reading Tolstoy and dreaming about having a book one day. Didn't think it would be a business book, but that'd be a dream. That's always been a dream of mine. So you guys can help make it happen. Help make a Jewish boy from New Jersey's dream come true.
Well, it's fantastic. I think any writer, their dream is to write a book, and good on you and Shane for making it happen. I've had a look over the book, and it's fantastic. So I definitely recommend going to thestorytellingedge.com and pre-ordering and checking it out for yourself. So there's just, I'd like to just come back to your marketing strategies a little bit further. If you were to take, say, Contently annual marketing plan, what would you actually, if you could only do three things like that are generating you new leads, new customers, and they're repeatedly working, they're just your best strategies, what would you pick? What are the three best things that you would pick for Contently?
So I'll try to get more specific of things I haven't talked about yet. The first is we've had this campaign called the Accountable Content Series over the last 6 months that's been hugely successful for us. So our big message now, we don't need to educate people about what content marketing is anymore, but we do really need to do a lot of work educating people about how to tie content to business results. And that's what our Accountable Content campaign and series has been around. So this is a combination of a lot of things. It's dedicate stories on the stories and video series on the Content Strategist, our blog. Every month, I'm launching a new video series next week called Content Marketing Minute that's focused on this. Did an interview series around this. We have a lot of very tactical ROI focused articles we publish each month around this. We tie that in with an event series across the country. So instead of big events, we do these small VIP dinners with marketing executives where we talk really candidly about this huge issue of tying content to business results and present strategies and spark discussion around it. And we also focus a lot of our larger, search marketing and internal client-facing marketing efforts around it as well. And it's been crazy successful for us. Huge ROI, 5x plus over the second half of last year. So we're continuing that this year because it's working so well. And once you have a message like that, you want to continue to associate your brand with that kind of idea. It's also resonated really well with the analysts. Second, really good question. Second, I think doubling down more on multimedia formats in general. We're seeing a lot of success there. We also want to practice what we preach, right? We want to Contently to be seen as a leader in the market in that sense. So we're doing more. So
you're talking about bringing video into the mix and things like that?
Yeah, and doing, I think better video series, doing stuff that's very short, to the point, optimized for cuts that are optimized for social networks, practicing everything that we preach to our clients, while also exploring more down funnel content in interactive ways. So we're releasing a few big research initiatives over this year that are going to have a lot of interactive components. I can't really talk about them yet, but we think that is going to be really big, and that's probably one of our main focuses. And then, the last that continues to be huge for us is just that commitment to being thought leaders in the industry. And that term gets thrown around a lot, and I almost hate the term thought leader at this point, but we always need to push ourselves to examine what's next for the industry. How can we talk about things that other people aren't? How can we anticipate what the conversation next year is going to be around? And that involves a lot of internal debate. We have weekly editorial meetings where we're really pushing each other to come up with better and more innovative ideas. We are huge dorks for everything that's coming out of different trade publications and analyst groups. So we ensure that we're on top of where the conversation is. We use a lot of our own content strategy tools. We just went through a huge exercise at the end of last year for my content strategy team to apply that to our own marketing efforts. So staying ahead of the curve is just huge for us. It's a soft strategy, but I think it's really important. And bonus one is with the right events. We haven't done a ton of trade events in the past. We figured out how to do them better, and that's been a really big ROI channel for us. I think we were really surprised to see how much interest at places like Serious Decision Summit and Content Marketing World there was in our booth and at Contently, and that paid for itself within 6 weeks of doing those kinds of sponsorships. So a little bit of old school there too. Trade is actually big for us.
That's interesting to hear. I mean, it's not surprising that everything but your bonus tip there relates around content marketing, really. And I guess what I've understood from this really is that, you create great content that has thought leadership, promote it big to, obviously you've got a huge audience from your email list and the other people that you deal with, your talent network and things like that as well. And then what I understand is that you bring it down to personal touch with letters, messages that are sent out, in-person events on a small scale to really give people the personal touch and get in there on a smaller scale once you find the right people to talk to. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that was a great summary.
Cool. So I guess we're coming to the wrap up really. We've got our last 5 questions if you'd be happy to answer. So what's your best piece of marketing advice?
Focus on your audience. I've probably said that so far, but really obsess with what are the challenges, what are the interests of the audience you're trying to serve? How can, especially in a B2B setting, how can you make them better at their job? How can you make them look really freaking good to their boss and their colleagues? If you can do that for people, if you can make them feel smarter, my co-author Shane Stone has a great post about this on LinkedIn right now. If you can make people feel smarter and better at their jobs, they're going to love you forever.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. If you can help people, give them advice and support and actually help them do things in their own business, they will thank you forever for it, really. Can you recommend a book? I know what the answer to this one might be.
Yeah, I'd recommend our book, of course. If I'm going to recommend another book, probably my favorite book last year was You'll Grow Out of It by Jesse Klein. It's a hilarious book of nonfiction humor essays. If you want I actually think nonfiction humor essays are a great teaching tool for telling really, really good stories, because it will help you kind of figure out how to bring your own experiences into the stuff you write about. First person works really well for us. And for me personally, I use first person in probably 75% of the blog posts that I write. We use it throughout the book. So, except we use it as like a royal we, as if Shane and I are like in one of those giant 2-headed like horse costumes where I'm the butt or something. I would encourage you to check that out. There's one story called Dale that's a little NSFW about her experience with a Disney character at Disney World at a wedding. But check it out.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. That sounds very interesting. Okay, so what software tool could you not live without?
Contently first. We've done all of our market automation there. I almost screwed that up. We got yelled at by my boss.
Yeah, that's another plug.
Next, BuzzSumo. Love BuzzSumo. Best cheap social analytics tool out there. You're crazy if you're not using it.
Yeah, no, we love BuzzSumo here as well. It's useful on a daily basis, really. We use it all the time.
Similar WebStope too. We just started using that. Big fan.
Yeah. And on a free basis, or we use SimilarWeb, but we've not used it on a paid basis. So I know you can get some data for free on there as well. So
yeah, we used to use it for free. Just got the paid version. It's been worth it.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, we'll check that out as well. And if you were to look back at marketing campaigns over time, could be recent, could be a long time in the past, what would you say your favorite example of a marketing campaign is?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mentioned GE reports earlier, which I still just love at its fundamental core, because Tomas Kellner, who runs it, is a former editor at Forbes. And it's just this awesome reporting about the badass innovations going inside GE. Like, he's actually breaking news about cool stuff that they're inventing.
Okay.
And they do it in a lot of different ways. It's like Snapchat, it's Periscope live streams. It's a lot of times just a lot of really cool visual heavy written reports. They go, viral on Reddit all the time, which is super hard for any marketer to ever do. I would say check them out.
And where can we find out more info about that?
GEreports.com.
GEreports.com.
If you also Google Contently and GE Reports, I've written too much about them at this point because I'm such a geek for their program. But and just great B2B, tech-centric storytelling. That's probably my favorite.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And which of the podcasts do you listen to, apart from this one, of course?
So I'm a huge Pod Save America fan. That the guys at Cricket Media, they are 3 former Obama speechwriters. They launched this whole podcast network called Cricket Media. That's a hilarious take on American politics, a liberal slant. That's definitely my favorite. Also, we'll plug, if you're looking for a good marketing podcast, Unthinkable by Jay Kunzo. Really, really good podcast focused on strategies for creating great craft-centric content, telling great stories. I like that one a lot. It's two I'd recommend.
That's great, and thanks for recommending the podcast by Jay there. We actually have Jay on a future podcast here as well. So Jay from Unthinkable will be on a future podcast with us, which we're really looking forward to as well.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone listening should definitely check that out.
Cool. Well, Joe, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thanks for being on our inaugural podcast. It's been great to have you, and everyone should check out Contently, and of course check out The Storytelling Edge, new book by Joe as well, and Shane Snow.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for listening. Thank you for having me. And check out The Content Strategist too. It does not plug Contently nearly as much as I've plugged all of my stuff on this podcast so far. So you can look forward to that.
Thanks, Joe. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with your friends. I'd also be extremely grateful if you could rate and review us on iTunes, as this really does make a difference. Next week, I'm joined by G, who is the VP of Growth at Drift. G has been called the mad scientist because his extreme focus on growth experiments. If you're looking to grow your business, this is an episode you will not want to miss. Thanks again from me, Matt Byram.